Today, whatever I am going to speak to you may sound a bit unconventional. Because of that, it is necessary to tell you about my journey a bit. So, coming to my journey, I have spent around 2 decades in my scientific career where I have dedicated to the exploration of the outer space. And when I joined the Indian Space Research Organization, I have joined as a rocket scientist. And then I got opportunity to work in planetary science, planetary exploration, and then also for the disruptive technologies. And presently, I'm working as the director of the science program of the ISRO. And a few memorable incidents in my professional journey include when I have worked for the Chandrayaan mission, the fast lunar impactor mission from Asia contributed to that. Then all the space missions starting from Chandrayaan-1, in fact, all the missions, Chandrayaan-1 to 3, the Mars orbiter mission, our solar mission, Aditya L1, ExpoSat, all the missions I have got the opportunity to work in some capacity or the other. And this is a very special moment a few months ago when Chandrayaan-3 soft landed on the moon. And there have been very active contributions from our side. And also there have been a few years of contributions as science communicator, which went parallelly with my responsibilities. And all these things are the exploration of the outer space. So coming to the exploration of the inner space, my journey also has witnessed about 3 decades of association in the domain of Hindustani classical music. I have learned on learning tabla. From my grandfather, I have started learning. And then presently, I am learning under the tutelage of the Guru Mahadevan care. And in between, I was very fortunate to got the blessings of the Venerable Tirtha Master Pandit Santa Prasadji. Yeah. And also there have been a decade of literary association wherein I could write around 12 fiction books. So all that I've done in the course of my journey, I have met several people from all walks of life. But today I'm going to speak what I have learned from people who are coming from the scientific domain, the scientific professionals. But I noticed in them, many of them were full of knowledge but lacking happiness. But why? The reason, as I analyzed, the brains are all occupied with things that cannot be avoided in the material world. And that indicates only knowledge is not enough. The knowledge has to be aided by action, and both action and knowledge have to be driven by the purpose. And that if there is some materialism in the purpose, that materialism percolates down to action and knowledge. And let me tell you here, materialism is not at all bad. Materialism is the mother of desire, and it is the desire that fuels everything that you can think about progress. It fuels inventions, industry, skill development, economic growth, job creation, lifestyle, whatever you can think for the progress of a nation or the humankind are fueled by desire, and it comes from the materialism. So it cannot deny materialism, but at what cost? So today, because of my association with the scientific community or even people, if I draw a scale from 1 to 100, scale of 0 represents fully materialistic, and scale of 100 tells fully abstract. We are somewhere between 10 to 20. And what lies beyond 15 to 60, the unexplained or unexplored regime? Will the notion of science change? Whatever we know as science today, will it continue to remain so? So, the notion of science has got different layers in different people. So that I have understood when I spoke to many people from all walks of life. So when I asked what do you mean by science, I have a model. The model is like this: science is like an iceberg. As you know, the iceberg, only a part of the iceberg is visible above the surface of the water, and below the surface of the water, you have the rest of the iceberg. Now, if you ask a person who has never studied science, to the person, science is like a religious text which can never be questioned. On the same question to someone who has just a formal introduction of science, he or she will tell you, science is natural laws, electricity, materialism, so on and so forth. Same question you ask to a person who can relate this knowledge to the world of applications. He will say, well, it's electromagnetic theory, electronics, TV, radio, instruments. But here something interesting starts. Someone who dives to the abstract beyond applications, they will say, oh, heart, I see general relativity, quantum mechanics, and they don't rely on my common sense. So for the first time, I'm going to a layer where my common sense is no longer applicable. And then someone who has just moved into the by the realm of abstractness, he will say, I see so many abstract things like standard model, quantum field theory, all this are mind-boggling. So he has started using the term mind, just notice this transition. And then, where the deep inspires that hearing, there, do I say something? And is it still science? The person intellectually is at the edge of the iceberg, at the interface between the iceberg and the ocean. And here, the journey starts from the materialistic realm to the other realm. So, whatever I have learned by my interaction with different people, materialistic impact suffers from a sense of confinement. And this confinement is also in the realms of notion of space and time. So how? When I am interacted with students or any professionals, science professionals even, they ask me two questions. If universe is expanding, we all know universe expands. If it is expanding, which space it is consuming up? One question, very valid. Second question which I come across, what was there before the universe was born? And jokingly I say, maybe a spider. But the question is, what is the spider? So, if you see a spider uses its own body fluid to generate thing. You cannot say it otherwise. It generates and then you see the spider wing. Similarly, today we see matter, today we see space, time, energy. And the people who have undergone the realm of physics, the path of physics, they know that quantum field theory says space when gets condensed gives you matter. And then the concepts of relativity tell you how space and time are linked as a fabric of space-time continuum. Also, the concepts of quantum mechanics, especially associative principle, symmetry and conservation laws tell you how time and inertia are linked. And when it comes to matter, how matter is broken down to, subatomic particles, and subatomic particles are in turn built up of something called elementary particles. And let me tell you here, elementary particles are nothing but fins. What are fins? Fins are like oceans. And in ocean, you have ripples. Water doesn't have any form, but ripples have forms. It is some manifestation of form the formless. So that is the field, and something pervading and formless, that is the field, which has given rise to all these forms, whatever we see today. Take an example of human body, consider tissue. Have a microscope, enlarge your tissue, you get cells. You concentrate on a cell, enlarge a cell, you get molecules. Concentrate on the molecules, you get atoms. You see one atom. And when you see an atom, it is about 10 to the power minus 10 meter, the size. And when you consider an atom, within an atom, there's a nucleus, which is around 10 to the power minus 15 meter. If I put things in perspective, if you consider a big city, the entire city is the atom, while up to that is a nucleus. And in between the nucleus and the periphery of the city, you have a region of void. And in this void, nothingness, then there's something called fluctuations of fields. And if you further consider that nucleus, you are going to see that there are protons and there are neutrons. Hydrogen atom is an exception. And here you will see quarks. And these are all fundamental particles which are nothing but ripples in the ocean of phase. But here, what does it mean? It means that all of us, as I say you say me, all of us are fluctuations of phase. And because of the fluctuations happen so rapidly or in a way which are not perceivable by us, we see that something material is there and have a shape, something is there, tree, ocean, everything materialistic is formed. Now the question is, if all of us are fields, what distinguishes us individually? The answer is individual cells of self or ego. Now, ego, what do you mean? Do you mean consciousness? Yes, but consciousness in a limited sense. Why do you call it as a limited sense? Because you are so far speaking about individual's consciousness, and that takes back to 1920s when quantum mechanics was born. It was a very successful way of looking into the physical matter in terms of explaining the behavior of atoms and subatomic particles. And there was another facet of quantum mechanics, which was the philosophical aspect of quantum mechanics, which gave some idea about consciousness. So in quantum mechanics, if you ask me this question, where am I? And assume that there is nobody here to observe me. You are not present. Where am I? There are many possibilities. I may be in office, I may be in a forest, I may be in a cinema hall, I may be in a lecture hall. And each of these possibilities is represented by a wave. And each wave represents a possibility. Now we introduce an observer. And when the observer is present, quantum mechanics says that all the other possibilities, they get collapsed, and only one possibility remains, that I am in a lecture hall. So far, so good. Now, what actually happens, again, quantum mechanics says that the consciousness of the individual interferes with all the possibilities, making all others collapse, retaining only one. So far, so good. Quantum mechanics is happy. But now, the oriental philosophy starts here. Whatever multiple observers, all of you are there, and all of you agree that I am in the lecture hall. So, is there any connection between all of you, individual consciousness, and I call it a collective consciousness? And there is a stark deviation from the material sense of whatever quantum mechanics said. Now, suppose at another extreme, there is no biologically living observer. When there is no biologically living observer, there will still be some effects, maybe the infrared coming out of my body, or there is some outgassing which is happening from my skin. Some signature will remain somewhere in this hall. So, aren't these observations too? So, if you see observations, they need not necessarily be biologically living entities only. Observation can be any interaction that alters the state of matter, and they qualify as observation. You should have a biologically living entity for that. So consciousness is all about connectedness, and this connectedness happens through interactions. So with this, let us speak about connectedness. So connectedness, as I have mentioned, the collective consciousness goes to universal consciousness when you are not having any material being, you are not having any living being, and then it is like a many-body problem in consciousness. And you can have an analogy, like if you have, say, a few people, 6 people, and each person is represented by a spherical mirror, and each spherical mirror will have reflections from all the other mirrors. As I have shown in this example, the spherical mirror for the person 3, and you can zoom it and you get the image of the person 1 in person 3, and go on further zooming it at some point of time, you will see a person 3 is containing itself or himself through the reflections to others. In a nutshell, that I am containing you, you are containing me, and I am containing myself through you. Everything is like hologram, a part of which is containing the whole. And what does it mean? It means that if I disturb only one element, am I not disturbing the entire ocean? We are all familiar with the curve fitting. We all have studied. You have a few points and you fit the discrete curve. And let us disturb a point here, as I have mentioned. The moment we disturb the point, the entire curve gets some disturbance. But you put a constraint here that I will disturb a point, but the best fit curve should not be disturbed. So what will happen? All the other points also will get disturbed. So you can compare it with this. The individual points are like individual selves, and the best fit curve is something like individual's self. The universal consciousness, which is a collective consciousness in a much broader sense. And in practical reality, we do observe this kind of propagation of actions, thoughts, and ideas. Now, this universal consciousness shapes up this material world, as I have mentioned, and does yet another thing. It does a kind of bifurcation and unification. What happens? I have spoken about the fundamental particles, spoken about fields. Let me tell you, all then whatever you see today, they are made of 17 kinds of fundamental particles. 12 out of them are matter particles, and 5 out of them are force particles. And all of these particles are fields. Particles are particles when they are having a form of ripples in that field. And if you see in any language, there are alphabets, and alphabets are divided into vowels and consonants. So there is an analogy between the matter particles and the consonants. The force interactions, particles are the vowels. Vowels join those consonants. Similar thing happens in the fundamental particles also. Now what happens? There is a realm of emotion where these emotions are manifestations of individual's consciousness, and these emotions are given rise to linguistics. letters have given rise to literature. So this entire chain has come from the realm of emotions. And since the emotions are the reflections of consciousness, as the consciousness has given shape to the material world, don't you see a very good bifurcation or unification from one point which can be called consciousness? One arm has become the material world, and other gene has become what we say the world of emotions, or later on we can coin some other term also. So all these things, whatever we see in the left-hand side, the realm of materials and the realm of emotions, aesthetics, drama, literature, music, dance, proton, neutron, electrons, are not at all different. They're all unified at some place, which is coming from something called consciousness. And at this juncture, I would like to say at some point of time, I don't have any idea after how many years from now, the extreme of science will be the science of consciousness, and it will be recognized as the most fundamental entity manifesting as everything, be it matter or be it force. At this juncture, like I tell you, I have coined a term, and the term is called Conson. The Conson is a particle or a phase. As ripples, as a particle, it is a ripple in the field of the universal consciousness. Conson is the seat of all matter and the force. In fact, this brings back to the old question which I have begun with, why there was no concept of time before the beginning of the universe, because time also originated from consciousness. And if you see the perception of exploration of the universe is nothing but Conson resonating with itself. And if you have not explored yourself, how will you explore something external? Exploration of one's own self is deep diving into consciousness and thereby connecting with every other entity that apparently seem external. And I conclude by showing you this chain. Conson is bifurcating into two chains. One chain is the material chain starting from the quantum field, force and material. Another chain which I now use the term astral chain. The astral chain is nothing but the one consciousness and other aesthetics. And Conson itself is the causal entity which is the most fundamental. Thank you so much for this opportunity.